and welcome to Confessions in the Powder Room podcast. This is a podcast where it's a safe place to talk and share, and we're so happy to have the opportunity to share with our listeners today. So, for those who don't know us, I'm CJ Posh,
And I'm EG Glam.
and we are your co hosts of this beautiful experience. We're two opinionated women who want to share and learn through our life experiences. And we both have had a lifetime of experiences of you name it, all of the isms, ageism, racism, sexism, going through divorce, raising family, single parenthood, maneuvering through corporate America to include layoffs, having to reinvent yourself, addictions, family court, domestic abuse, and the list goes on and on. You name it, and between the two of us, we've probably gone through it. Our goal is to bring awareness and talk about the important things that Black women over 30 go through and to create a safe space to be able to talk about some of these issues and challenges through the journey of being over 40. So, E.G. Glam, how are things going?
Everything is going great. I've had a wonderful week. So just happy to be here. I'm loving the week so far. It's really hot and humid here, but nothing out of the ordinary. How about you?
I'm doing good. I actually had two interesting things that happened this weekend.
Do tell. I'm excited to hear. Okay.
So, so I there's a running club that is heavily promoted in my city. So it's a running club for Black folks. They meet a couple times a week in different locations in the city, and they run together. And so I thought that was very appealing, and I wanted to try it out. It's been trending on social media in my area. And so I got up early Saturday morning to join this running club.
Wow.
E.g. Lamb, the running club, at least this running club, is the new going to the club.
Oh, wow. Okay. I might like to get into that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And, it was an opportunity for, the fit of the fit, on down to show up to a park, scantily clothed with exercise gear and to run and to network and to socialize. And it was just so awesome to see people who look like us, committing to, running at least, for that morning. But I realized that my exercise gear was out of date. I had on just my regular exercise clothes, and I am out of date. So, note to myself, I need to step up my fitness gear.
So you have to step into the current state and what we see, what's depicted on television and social media, or at least, at least reinvent yourself for the time being for the running club.
Absolutely. Just, so it was a good, injection of, the importance of, staying up with the trends. Of course, I don't have to stay up with the trends. I think it's good to be individuals and dress, what you're comfortable with. But I think that, as we, grow mature and we start, I think it's important to just make sure that we are, at least awareness of the trends that are going on.
Absolutely. Agreed with that. Yes, ma'am.
So the
I agree.
second interesting experience that I had was I reconnected with ex-boyfriend. We hadn't spoken in a couple of
Ooh,
years. Yes, we just, started talking on social media initially, and, took the conversation to a telephone conversation. So this was an ex from years and years ago. We were very serious. We were on marriage track. The relationship was long distance, and so ultimately that's why we ultimately broke up. But one of the things that this ex talked about that he was pretty adamant on, ensuring I understood where he was coming from, was he talked about my temper and how my temper would flare up with him. And although I told him that, he gave me a good reason. There are plenty of times where he, poked the bear. He was adamant in expressing to me that there were times when he was actually scared. I would get a certain look in my eye and look like I wanted to, slug it out with him. And
oh,
although I'm a nonviolent person, and that's something that I, never done with a man, it was interesting to hear his perspective. And so this was years and years ago. And, I've managed to, through working with therapists and a lot of, healing and a lot of just, understanding myself, my hot headedness, has drastically reduced. But I have to confess that at one point, I was an angry Black woman.
oh
Angry.
wow, Carlene. So yeah, angry Black woman, and you know, having the temper and being labeled as a angry Black woman. There's a lot that goes into that stigma. So I'm hoping to dive into that in this episode today. So interesting stuff. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and with that, Black women, we are known for being sassy and quick. The angry Black woman stereotype exists in many parts of American culture, including the workplace. And studies have shown people and organizations believe Black women are most likely to be belligerent. We're most likely to be contagious, and then we're most likely to demonstrate angry personalities. And that assumption is really not, given to other men and women, who are non-Black. And so what happens is the angry Black women stereotype has the potential to negatively impact Black women's employment status and career progress. And
That's
you and I, we've both, have been in recruiting. And I think you and I, we've talked about and we've seen, the way that, employers have responded to Black women.
we've had several conversations in regards to that. I observed short while back, during my recruiting days that highly qualified, African American woman and, another qualified candidate who was not African American. And the African American woman, she was more qualified than the other candidate, but the hiring manager decided to pass on her and provide the opportunity to the non-Black candidate. And, that was unfortunate that that happened, but I did ask the hiring manager, for his reasoning. And, his reasoning was he needed someone who would be able to be a team player and have conflict resolution skills. So, hearing those words, I'm thinking you don't think that Black women can, be team players or de-escalate any types of conflict. So kind of goes back to that stereotype that you're judging a book by its cover before you read the book, but are we actually playing into that stigma of an angry Black woman. So there's a lot to be seen there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there. So, doing some research because we want to walk our listeners through, the different types of stereotypes and caricatures
Absolutely.
of Black women. And some of this is something that actually resounds with me and what I've seen in my family. So the first stereotypical character, if you will, is the mammy. So this is an asexual Black
Mhm.
woman who was only there to take care of her family, and I absolutely present it as though she had no needs. Her only role in life was to support the family, and the many times that was taking care of the white family. So from the 1800s through the mid 1900s, Black women were portrayed in culture as mammies who ran their own homes with iron fists. And that includes actually, emasculating their Black husbands and children. So if we think of this character, if we want to, connect the dots to, the character that, we've seen in media, a well-known example of a mammy was the actress Hattie McDaniel. She was a Black actress who played like a very feisty and a quick-tempered mammy in many of the movies in the 20s and 30s and 40s. And so one of her really popular roles was Gone with the Wind, where
I
she's
remember her.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting that, not serving any needs of her own and, having a quick temper, emasculating the Black man, and how that plays into that angry Black woman stereotype and the type of angry Black woman. So there's a lot to unpack. There's interesting that there's different um, sides or different types of angry Black women. And that's what I find interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, very, and it's in, and this was really promoted in culture. The second Black character is a Jezebel character. So this is the hypersexualization of Black women. It presents us having these insatiable sexual appetites. And this is actually another topic that I would love to do a deeper dive on in another podcast. Because I feel like Black women are completely over sexualized, and today's we've always been over sexualized, but it feels like and it seems like with social media that over sexualization has gone up in society.
I agree with that. Uh, it's funny that you say that. Do you think that, you know, let's talk about the time before social media for a moment. Before social media, if you look back at, how we were looked at it and being over sectionalized, we were doing some risque things, dressing the
Mhm.
part, or we were entertaining things that we shouldn't entertain. Let's say someone was catcalling us, or um, you know, w- I even think back to the videos that were playing back in those days. There were some, risque videos.
Yes,
Mm.
like
So
the 90s hip hop videos.
absolutely. So that was all before social media. Now we
True.
have a world of social media, and there's so much more to see. So I I think some of this is, self-inflicted, so to speak.
I that's a great point. I think it is self-inflicted because at the end of the day, if you look at social media, no one is putting out that image. So if a woman goes on social media and you see the profiles, and they're always showing their butt shots and scantily dress. that's driven by that person's activities and what they're choosing to do and how they're choosing to present themselves to the world.
Absolutely. And but I understand this is something that some individuals may say, "Hey, I can dress the way I want if it's my body." I do agree with that. Uh, and I do agree with the fact that no one should ever be a victim of any type of, sexual violence or any sexual acts because of the choices that they make as far as the way they dress or present themselves. But I also feel like there is a certain way you should present yourself in the public. So if you decide to push the envelope and go a little overboard with being scantily clad, then you do open up, additional conversations that you probably wouldn't even look for or that you care not to entertain. So it's not saying, "Hey, you asked for this," but it's saying, you know, "Hey, if you want to be treated with respect or be treated differently, let's focus on, dressing the part, if you will."
Yeah, exactly. If you're presenting yourself and showing yourself in a certain manner, and I agree, you definitely have the right to have self-expression. And if showing, your body off or whatever is self-expression, that I'm totally for that. But you have to accept the consequences of things that come behind that. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
agreed. So the final, stereotypical Black character is Sapphire. Sapphire is the angry Black woman, loud, masculine, rude, loud, stubborn, overbearing. The Amos and Andy show had a character that really played into this stereotype. And we'll have the links of this character in the description of this podcast. Another example of a Sapphire character is Aunt Esther on the Sanford and Son show.
Woody, Laverne wants to speak to you.
Laverne? Who is Laverne?
Oh, that's all right. That's all over with now.
Over? Bye. You must have had to start something to get something over. So if you done started something, I'm going to get it over.
She was a Bible swinging, angry nemesis and sister-in-law of the main character, Fred. And, they had a love-hate, relationship. So that was an interesting dynamic. But in addition, Aunt Esther dominated her husband, Woodrow, who was basically she basically a low-key alcoholic. And so that's another example of a historical Sapphire character. An example of a more modern day Sapphire character is the character Pam, who was on Martin. And
everyone remembers Pam.
Yeah, everyone remembers Pam. She was smart mouth, sassy, and did not get along with Martin at all. And although, I really love, her, Pam James as an actress, Tanisha Arnold as an actress. I mean, she has played another role in Everybody Hates Chris, where it was the same type of character. So that role she played very well. And basically, it's another example of Black women, playing into the angry Black woman character. So the Black woman is an image that feels familiar in many genres. The angry Black woman has been around for a very long time. And so as a society and, as a Black community, when we talk about, the buzzwords like, Black women are masculine, Black women are, have tempers, that has always been part, unfortunately, of our history in this country.
That is just, when you look at that, we would laugh at the characters on television because we thought that that was just really hilarious. Seeing those, Pam go against Martin, and also seeing Tashina Arnold's character on Everybody Hates Chris. But when you think about it, it is depicting the angry Black woman. So, are we really angry, or are we just, you know, depicting who we are as individuals? So it's a question that only we can answer. But I also think that this goes back a little further to, our childhoods, where we've been not forced, but actually encouraged to be strong. Black women, be strong. And that sometimes plays out as angry Black women. So just a lot to unpack there. And we may be able to do that on another episode when we talk about, um, how our past can affect us as adults. So I would like to dig into that a little bit more.
That's a great point. EG Glam, is being a strong Black woman. Can we be soft and feminine and still be a strong Black woman? Or is being a strong Black woman, is it automatically associated with having a level of, anger, and, a level of, being sassy, as part of being a strong Black woman? So I think that would be a great, subject matter to dive into in another podcast.
Okay, that sounds good.
Let's hear what the social media streets are saying about angry Black women. So the first influencer, the name of her channel is Whole Heart Center, and she gives her perspective on Black women.
The angry Black woman. The angry Black woman stereotype is another trope that causes Black women to suppress their emotions and feel like they have to put on a persona in front of other people. Society sees us as this angry person, so we spend all of this energy trying to show everybody that we're not. In doing so, it causes us to be disconnected from other people and ourselves. By nature, I'm a very serious person. But being so serious has caused people to give me feedback that I need to smile more, that I need to intimidate people less, because that seriousness is perceived as anger. So trying to reinvent myself and make myself more acceptable to other people has often caused a weight for me that is hard to carry. So what's the solution? One solution is to allow yourself to express a full range of emotions, yet also having discernment about where that's appropriate and where it's not. You'll find who you can take risks with, who can you take that mask down for, and who you can be your authentic self around. The angry Black woman.
All right, so that is what Whole Heart Center had to say about the myth of the angry Black woman and things that we can do to help not appear as angry.
Yeah, we can definitely do some work on our parts for sure. Having that discernment to, not walk into the room as though we have a chip on our shoulder, or ready for a confrontation or looking for a confrontation, is definitely something that we can embrace and be more open to listening to others, and not allow ourselves to, get a temper or be have some sort of disdain towards someone else's opinion. One thing that I learned when I was working on my master's degree, I had to work with a team of individuals, and some of those individuals were not, it was a team related assignment. There were team related assignments that we had to complete. But with those team related assignments, a of course, when we wanted to turn them into the professor, let's say they were due on Wednesday, we wanted to have our work completed by Monday so that we can make sure it looked okay. And if there was any last minute edits before we had to turn them in, then we were able to do that. But we had one individual in the crowd that would just provide their paperwork on Tuesday. And that, of course, caused us to, be a little bit disorganized or do some last minute edits. And, I do recall, saying something to that individual, and the professor, his feedback was, this is where you learn about conflict resolution, and as opposed to, coming across in a way where it might be disrespectful to the other person, or being a little aggressive with your tone. This is where you learn to de-escalate the situation and speak to the person about, hey, do you understand why we asked for you to turn in your paperwork on Monday? We have a deadline we have to meet. So there's a different approach. And I think that I learned a lot there. So, initially my knee-jerk reaction was, hey, what is your problem?
Mhm.
And then eventually it turned into, okay, do you understand why we asked that this is turned in on Monday as opposed to Wednesday? So just learning those different nuances there and learning how to approach situations differently and react differently. So I think
That's
that's sharing.
and that's such I'm so glad you brought that up as an example. And the item that caught my attention with your story was a conflict resolution, because if you think about it, where do we learn conflict resolution? Most likely you don't get it at home.
No.
Especially with our generation, the parent households of our generation, conflict resolution was not part of any conversation.
Absolutely. No.
Maybe even the opposite. Um, and so you don't capture those skills in the household. So then you go out into the world, and unless you happen to have the opportunity to take a class or capture that in some type of training, we really don't learn conflict resolution.
Agreed. We don't. And that's something that I believe my takeaway, from that entire situation was that I need to learn to control myself and have a diplomatic conversation as opposed to, reacting to something. It's about, okay, maybe we need to rediscuss the rules, or we need to go over why it's important to have this information to us, turned in on a Monday as opposed to a Tuesday or Wednesday. So I learned a lot there.
Yeah, that's great that you had that experience and had the opportunity to practice conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
So the second social media clip comes from Elton Andridge. He is a white male, and he will give his perspective on why Black women are angry from his perspective.
A lot of people ask this question: why are Black women really angry today? I have an answer to that question. It's actually pretty simple. Black women are really angry because this is why. They are so sick and tired, and they are extremely fed up. Why? Because all they do is get treated like shit all the time. Sadly, in society and its generation, Black women are the most hated, mistreated, and the most disrespected human beings in the planet. Which I don't understand why. And here's a problem. The problem is that not only people look at them and just assume she has anger problems, and they just get thrown under the bus by not just other individuals who don't look like them, but unfortunately, black men, not all, they do it the most. Because I've been seeing a lot of them on TikTok and other social media platforms who disrespect and bash black women the most. But it doesn't matter. All I'm asking is this, is that people need to stop throwing hate and stop bashing one another and just look at each other and just say, you are a human being and you deserve to be treated with respect, regardless of who and what you are or where you're from originally. Sadly, today, black women are the most mistreated humans. And they don't deserve it. Nobody does. We're all one race, the human race. And black women are queens, that they have value, and they deserve to be treated with love and kindness and respect. Black is beautiful.
Wow, so that was interesting coming from a white male.
That was. I really like that.
He must be married to a black woman. The aspect of his clip that resounded with me is we are underappreciated in society. We are disrespected in society. We started in this country being disrespected from the onset. And so it's generational, as far as the disrespect that takes place with black women from all different types of groups in America.
I agree. I agree. Since I was a child, I'll say this quickly. Since I was a child, I've always heard that we are the most disrespected demographic out there. So it's just, from being a child to, where I'm at now, to still hear that, it is painful. And we talk about how far we come, but have we come that far, So just wanted to add that, but, very, very good insight there with that clip.
And then the last clip is an influencer. His TikTok name is Dr. Clay Rambo. And we'll hear from him as far as the black women and us being angry.
I'm referring to black females. Can someone enlighten me why they seem to be the most upset?
Y'all know why. Let's stop asking these gaslighty ass questions. Y'all know why. We've been having this conversation for God knows how long. Why are black women so mad about everything? And they tell you all the time. But guess what, little bro? You don't listen. Y'all always confused all the time, but you never take the time to actually listen to people next to you. Y'all love talking, but don't want to hear nobody. I'm going to be so for real. If I'm not being listened to after a while, I'm going to start to get angry. Like, I'm just bewildered by how you guys continue to act like you don't see it. They express it in song. They express it in movies. They express it in video essays. They express it in every way possible. But you guys still let it sail over your head on purpose because you guys know that you're the problem. And if you really are confused, why don't you just talk to one? Y'all seem to know everything, but don't even know that you can talk to a person to understand them. But my point is that y'all know this and just don't care. Which is why my advice to black women instead is to never waste your time on people who don't know your struggle by now.
I love that.
Females.
Enough said.
I love that.
Go where you're celebrated.
Say less.
So he was a perfect clip to close out this segment. We'll transition into flip side of the coin, where we'll take different views on what our subject consisted of. And so I'm going to take the view of black women being portrayed as mad. That is an accurate representation, and it's very true. There is so much, and there are so many obstacles that black women must face walking out the door each day. We're the most underappreciated and disrespected segment of society. And in every aspect of our life, whether it's healthcare, whether it's corporate America, whether it's going into a retail store to buy something, we are disrespected. So you are right. We are angry. We have a right to be angry. There's no other race in America that has to go through the things that Black women have to go through in all areas in our lives. So we have a right to be angry. And anyone who feels differently needs to spend a day walking in our shoes and then tell me that we don't have a right to be angry in America, in society, with society's treatment of us.
I appreciate you sharing that, Carlene. I just think, many people believe that, many believe that Black women are misunderstood rather than inherently angry. And the misunderstanding, I think, stems from a lack of empathy, awareness, and knowledge about the challenges and systemic issues that Black women often face. By taking the time to listen, learn, and understand Black women's perspectives, I believe society can move beyond the stereotypes and appreciate the full depth and diversity of Black women's experiences. And that's just, my opinion. I do understand where you're coming from, but angry is such a harmful stereotype and can really obscure the real experience and emotions of Black women. So I think a lot of times that this is just a misunderstanding, and I believe sitting down and understanding and listening is the key to have everyone to move past that and be more receptive of Black women.
So do you feel it's okay for us to be angry? Is it okay for us to have moments of anger?
I feel as though it's okay for us to not understand what's going on at the time, but I do feel as though at times it's that misunderstanding is misinterpreted as the world is against me. So I really have to, you know, make my stand, and whatever that looks like for that person, that's how they're going to, make their stand. And sometimes I feel like that's not the best way to go. I feel like, you know, again, the conflict resolution that I spoke of, the professor made me look at, hey, instead of you approaching it as, a person who's tense and very upset that this person's not doing their job, maybe you should approach them differently and get a different result. So,
Okay, I agree. There, as Black women, we need to, if we are walking around angry, it's impacting our health. And so
absolutely.
that's a compelling enough reason to work on ways that we can address anger and have it work in a positive way for us. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I do agree that we as Black women need to take a step back from
Yes,
that anger stereotype.
for sure. So, regardless of your opinion, there's an issue occurring for women, and it appears women are impacted each and every time we reach a certain age. So, what I would like for everyone to do is join us for our next episode, where we are going to discuss personal hygiene over the age of 40 years old. But to just circle back and, you know, finalize what we're discussing today, it's important that we do have a voice, and it's important that we do express ourselves, because expression is going, everyone has the right to express themselves. I do also believe it's a manner in which we should express or present ourselves in order to change some stereotypes. So just wanted to add that, but also just wanted to thank our listeners for joining us.
Thank you, listeners.
Yes, and we want you to hit that like and subscribe button and see us next week where we're discussing, personal hygiene for individuals women over the age of 40. Thank you for joining us today.
Can't wait to have that conversation.
Yes, so this is EG Glam signing out. CJ Posh, join us next week. We look forward to it.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.
I've been stuck in